Hey, this is Matt once again. We're about to another video, and this is a paid request for Steven. Thank you so much for that. For those interested, requesting any type of videos, reviews, re-reviews, random thoughts, streams, commentaries, video game playthrough for an hour, a full playthrough, whatever the case may be, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal. I do have a CashApp as well. Links are down below in the info box. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. For those who sent them, thank you. I do appreciate it. Now this is for, as you can tell, the 1998 film Soldier, starring Kurt Russell, which I do quite like, but I was never always a fan. I wasn't always a fan of this movie. If I could learn how to talk straight. See, it's like my body doesn't want to say that because I watch it again, it's a really good film, but I think back to the day when I first saw this, I saw the marketing, which very much tackles on the action. And you got the more human than human white zombie song playing. You see the explosions. It's got Kurt Russell. At one point, he goes like Arnold Schwarzenegger in Commando. So I'm thinking it's going to be like that, or Showdown in Little Tokyo, or where it's going to be like an action scene every 10 minutes and he's going to be killing everybody, like Commando. But it wasn't the case. I did not expect that it plays more like a Western of sorts until the third act, and then it becomes a bit more like Commando, Rambo 2, like those type of films. So because I didn't expect that build-up, I felt disappointed. It wasn't until years later I rewatched the film. I go, you know what? For what it is, it's a simple story, very simple story that you've seen many times before. So it's nothing too original. But there's certain assets that make it work well. And, I think this does have a bit of a cult following. Just when you bring up the film, people go, oh yeah, I do like that film, Soldier. Now, when it came out, it didn't do well. I mean, it only made $14 million. I think the budget was like 60. Kurt Russell's paycheck was like 15 to 20 million, so it didn't even make back Kurt Russell's paycheck. So, I mean, the fact that it did 14 million only, I think it was a number of things. Number one, Kurt Russell was never a big box office guy. I mean, if you think about it, Tango and Cash, which was Kurt and Stallone, did kind of middling numbers, and I love Tango and Cash, but compared to other action films and other Stallone films, it didn't do the best, didn't do the worst. Tequila Sunrise did fine, but I think that was more because of Bill Gibson, and he was in like such a rising star with Lethal Weapon and such. Although I think Tequila Sunrise sucks, is boring as hell. And then there's other films he did, like Stargate, Executive Decision, like they did okay, but it's not like they were huge blockbusters. Escape from LA bombed, and that was the film he did before this. Although he also did Breakdown, and Breakdown was a good movie and did well based on its budget, though. See, Breakdown did not cost $60 million. It cost a lot less. So when it did like $50 million or so in the U.S., okay, this did well and it was profitable compared to its budget. So it was a bit weird that they gave all this money. First off, they gave Caruso a $15 to $20 million paycheck when, like I say, he's not known to have this box office track record of $100 million hits. Kurt wasn't really like that. And again, the last big film of that budget was Escape from LA, and that film bombed. Again, Breakdown did fine, but it wasn't this $100 million blockbuster. So it is weird that they gave Kurt Russell that much money. I'm sure maybe Kurt asked for it, but that they went for that. And then Paul W.S. Anderson, the last film he directed was Event Horizon, and that film bombed. So the fact that Kurt Russell never been a huge box office star, even John Travolta's The Thing, And Big Trouble in Little China, they didn't do that well. Even Death Proof, part of Grindhouse sadly didn't do well. So, like I said, he's been always one of those actors that's done a lot of good movies, and only a handful of them, like Stargate and Breakdown and such, were hits. Stay in New York. Also, in 1998, these kind of movies were considered old hat by the audiences of that time. The next year, Universal Soldier: The Return, which I quite enjoy. I think that's a fun movie. That bombed badly. Because the one-man army, the commando or the soldier, whatever, going up and going against, being outnumbered and killing them all, one by one. Audiences of that modern set, they weren't really looking for that kind of movie anymore. To them, that was old hat. Think of the movies that were coming out at that time. Independence Day, Twister, Armageddon, Deep Impact. Like, these were the films becoming more the norm. Big, epic, alien invasion movie, tornado stuff. There's a asteroid or comet coming towards Earth. These were the big spectacles that people were going more towards. Or something like Saving Private Ryan, which was looked at as more sophisticated affair compared to something like Soldier. Something like Soldier, or the year after Universal Soldier Return, they were looked at as, oh, those are those films that kind of like we saw in the 80s, and Arnold and Sly, and we're kind of done with them. Those are old hat. We need to move on. And then 1999, a year later, you had The Matrix. And then you would have Spider-Man. You would have, even the same year, you had Blade, which did better. Just, okay, that's the direction we're going in more. In 2000, X-Men. So we're seeing this change of what kind of action films the audience at that time were more seeking, were more going towards. 2002, Spider-Man, etc., etc. The old ways of the one-man army was kind of, like I said, old hat. So if the same film was done in 1993, would it have done better? Maybe. But in 1998, is that okay? Yeah, whatever. Feel like I've seen this movie before. I'll take a pass. Now, the story is very simple. And it's a story you've seen plentiful times before, of course. But that's not always a bad thing. So the story is, you have this baby that goes through this, we see kind of its montage of life, where it gets picked for this program, and you see it grow up. When it's a little kid, they're with other kids, and they watch a pig get killed by dogs, and they're forced to look to get used to violence. They have to keep up with training because the kid lags behind, and he gets shot and killed because he's too weak. And I think actually his son, Kurt Russell's son, Wyatt Russell, is one of the ages. I forget if it was age 11, or one of them is actually his actual son. Then we see a montage when he's much older, and he's the Todd of the soldier, ready for battle. And we see this montage, which I thought was cool. It was a fun way of showcasing like these different battles. How it transitions from they're in this battle, then it's in the snow, then it's on the moons, and it's like on distant planets, and you see the history this character's gone through of war. Now, one of the writers is David Webb Peoples, who helped write Blade Runner. And in fact, this takes place in the universe of Blade Runner because there are references to it. When you have Kurt Russell and they have his stats coming up, you see one of them is the shoulder of Orion, which is one of the things Rutger Hauer brings up in his big speech at the end. Same with, I want to say, the Tannhauser dates is referenced. Because I think later on, when Kirk comes across his colony and one of them is Sean Pertwee, I believe he mentions, oh yeah, the Tannhauser dates. That's where a battle was. Which also is a reference to Blade Runner because, once again, that's one of the things Rutger Hauer mentions at his speech at the end of Blade Runner. So, also I think if you look carefully, because Kurt Russell's dumped on this wasteland planet, I think you see one of the spinners, the vehicles from Blade Runner, amongst the wreckage. So it's kind of looked at as like a side sequel to Blade Runner. Another film that didn't do well. So that's the thing, like Kurt Russell, he's not a big box office guy. Paul W.S. Anderson, his last film, Event Horizon, bombed. It's a side sequel kinda to Blade Runner, which that film bombed. Even Blade Runner 2049 didn't do that great much later on. So, and again, because of the films coming out of that time period, which this was considered too passe, it felt like this was always going to fail no matter what. At this time, at this period, it was always going to fail. And there was no way for this to succeed. But I said that the story is simple what it is. After you see this montage of him being trained, Jason Isaacs, who is in Event Horizon, he's been in quite a few other films. He was the bad guy in the Mel Gibson film The Patriot. Played a guy you just wanted to hate. You just wanted him to get his comeuppance. He comes in because he has improved soldiers. One of them is Jason Scott Lee, from directing the Bruce Lee story and Time Cop 2. Gary Busey is the guy who leads the old soldiers, and he says, oh, they don't have any experience. Jason Isaacs says, let's do a test. So they do a test. A few tests, and one of them is to go up this chain, have a fight. Actually have 3 or 4 of your men fight one of my guys. So Kurt Russell and some men fight Jason Scott Lee. Kurt Russell almost gets him, but Jason Scott Lee ultimately defeats them. Not without Kurt Russell gouging his damn eye out. Which is nice and bloody. Kurt Russell and them are considered obsolete, so they dump him. It's kind of weird they don't check them to see if they're alive or dead, because Kurt Russell, he landed... you check a pulse, or it's this future, they use some sci-fi shit and make sure he's alive or dead. So if he's dead, you put him out of his misery. Or if he's alive, put him out of his misery. Or if he's dead, put him out of his misery. So, but they don't. So I guess apparently they don't know how to check a pulse. But anyway, they dump him on this garbage planet. He's alive, he wakes up. He's got to figure out what to do. It's a planet where you have these horrible winds. He's wounded. He eventually gets to this colony. These outcasts. Among the outcasts, you have Sean Pertwee, which I remember from the film Dog Soldiers. And he's been in quite a few stuff. Was he in Event Horizon as well? I know Jason Isaacs was. I can't remember. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Because, yeah, I like Sean Pertwee as an actor. He's been in quite a few other stuff. There's him, his wife, played by Connie Nielsen. I like Connie Nielsen. She was in Gladiator and the sequel. She was in Mission to Mars. She was in Basic, which I think is a pretty decent, underrated film by John McTiernan with John Travolta and Sam Jackson. I saw it in the theater. So they're husband and wife. They have a kid who's mute. And you have some other people. The one guy I recognize is Michael Chiklis, who's on the TV show The Shield. He was the Thing in the 2005 Fantastic Four film. I have to look up, what does he do nowadays? He pops up once in a while. He was in that film Eagle Eye for a bit. He was in this direct-to-video film with Bruce Willis. But you rarely see Michael Chiklis anymore, which is too bad, because he's a very good actor. But this is a smaller role, so he's in it once in a while. But it's nice to see him. You know, I liked him as an actor. So they heal him. He's trying to get used to this situation, because it's so alien to him. There's no fighting, planting crops. It's just so foreign to him, he doesn't know how to handle it. He's got memories and PTSD of his battles and what he's done. He silently bonds with the kids since they're both fairly mute. I mean, Kurt Russell, they say he only has like 100 and some words. I swear it's less. I swear if you count it, I don't even know if it is 100 words. I know they say it's like 104, but it seems less. Again, I know if I type this, it don't say like 100 and some, but I swear it seems like it's a lot less than that. "104 words." Again, that's the thing everyone says, but I swear it's less than that. Anyway, that's what they say. But Kurt Russell does a good job because he lets his body do the talking. He lets his body, and it's very hard to do. Because trust me, there's a lot of people in a lot of movies that can't act for shit, even with their body. But Kurt, with his eyes and the way he looks at things, and his eyes can kind of get stern or get weakened, or he's looking at the kid, and he's like trying to teach the kid to kill the snake, and they don't exchange words, so that he's not afraid of it. How he'll see certain things and kind of go, is that how you do it? Is that the way it's done? Or even when Kurt Russell says a few words where, how does he like feel all the time, or how is he trained all the time? How it's fear and discipline, always. And she feels bad for him and hugs him, and you see like he's confused, he doesn't know what to do, and then he feels very kind of mix of emotions. Kurt Russell does a great job with a mostly non-verbal role, and he's one of the reasons this film succeeds. If you had a lesser actor, I think it'd be much more forgotten. I mean, you just say it's forgotten already, but it'd be even more forgotten now. So Kurt Russell is the man. Kurt Russell is one of my favorite actors. So it was cool to see him do this kind of movie. It's like each action star should have that. Stallone has Rambo, the first four. Arnold has Commando. Dolph has Red Scorpion. I don't know, Van Damme. Well, I guess the closest is Hard Target. He may not be playing a soldier, but he might as well with how many fucking people he kills. Just how he kills more people in that movie than Kurt does in this movie. So I'll give him Hard Target just because. But like, each should have at least that one movie where it's like they're a badass that just kill everybody. Go kill them all, sir. So Kurt does a great job. The rest of the cast, Gary Busey does what he's supposed to do. Jason Isaacs is definitely a weasel of a bad guy that you're waiting for him to just come up. And Jason Scott Lee, he definitely more bulked up compared to what I was seeing dreading the Bruce Lee story before this and Time Cop 2, which was Time Cop 2 after this? I can't remember. But he definitely very much more bulked up for the role. It's a good look for the improved soldier. Like I said, Michael Chiklis doesn't have a whole lot to do, but it's like to see him in there. Sean Pertwee, Connie Nielsen, they do their jobs fine. They're good support for the story. The special effects, they definitely show their age. When Kuroso comes out of the, when he wakes up, and you see in the trailer when you see it's from his back and he sees the wasteland. You know, you tell the effects don't hold up the best. But at the same time, there's not a whole lot of those type of shots. It is kind of more, you have the colony and then kind of this wreckage and garbage yard and scraps and stuff everywhere. Very rundown, very almost like Mad Max type of landscape, if that makes sense. And I think it does things that even though if you do it simple, if you do it effective enough, it could get people appreciating it and enjoying it, even if it's not going bonkers with action and spectacle. Yeah, good lead. It goes at a pretty good pace. It's only really 90 some minutes, give or take, if you take out the end credits. It tells a story in a fashion that's not confusing. It doesn't overcomplicate it and put in 18 different subplots. You know, when the actions there is handled respectably by Paul W.S. Anderson, which is crazy, because why couldn't he do this for AVP? Why couldn't he do this for, especially those later Resident Evil films he did? Or some of these other films? You did it with this, why can't you do it with that? I know he says this isn't the movie he really wanted to do because Kuroso really wanted to bulk up and that had to take some time. So they had some other location and they wanted to shoot it more on location, but the weather made it by the time Kuroso was ready that they couldn't do it, so they had to film more on a set, which is not what Paul wanted to do. And then you had the incident where early on Kuroso fucked up his, I think like his foot or something, that they say was a stunt, but some say more so he like tripped on something and had an accident. Anyway, they had to shoot the early stuff, which is him sitting, lying down, stuff of that nature, until he could get healed up in order to do the action bits. But like I said, like, Kurt's really good. The story's very evenly paced. I like seeing James Black. He's an actor who's on this TV show back to the day called The Burning Zone, which I never saw, but it seemed interesting. But I remember him. He was in these very, very low budget horror films by this guy named J.R. Bookwalter. So there was a film called Ozone that James Black starred in, which I guess would say is J.R.'s best movie, but done very, very, very cheap. But one of the reasons his best film is James Black is the lead and he does a decent job. He did also like these low budget films like Galaxy of the Dinosaurs that are only like 50 minutes or so, and it's the movie is bad, but if you ever get those DVDs, the commentaries are great because the commentaries are just two friends talking about how they were goofing off and laughing at the movie. I wish I could get the commentaries and upload them for people to watch, as those are hilarious. But and he would appear, like, you see him a little bit in Godzilla 1998, you see him a little bit in Universal Soldier The Return, and little bits here and there. He was in that film I reviewed, Love in a Bullet? Yeah, I think it was Love in a Bullet. He was in that. So, Substitute 3 with Treat Williams, he was in that. He was one of Treat's buddies in that movie. There's like three of them, Treat and two others. Like Treat, a girl, and James Black. And yes, he happens to be black. He has a whole lot to do, but it's nice to see him in there. I think he does well for what he's supposed to do. And it is a slow burn. Other than, the montage at the beginning and a little bit of that chain fight, you really don't have any action until quite a ways into the film. Which again, when I first saw it, bothered me and bugged me. But as I'm watching, I'm like, okay, it's building up the story, it's setting up the situation, so I actually care about the characters. I get Kurt Russell's, what he's going through, buying into how he changes his mind, how he decides to protect these people. At one point saves Michael Chiklis from being chomped up into this machinery because of the wind's going to pull him into it. And Kurt Russell saves Michael Chiklis. You see he has a hard time fitting in. This event happens with the snake where they think Kurt Russell put the kid in danger, but you find out he actually taught the kid to not be afraid, so the kid actually saves his parents from the snake. And so Sean Pertwee's like, I'm going to get him. We kicked him out. It was the wrong thing. By that point, Jason Isaacs and the military come in, and whoever's there, they're going to test the new soldiers and wipe out anyone who's there, even if they're innocent. Some people die, and it's up to Kurt Russell to kick some ass. And one of the few lines he says is, "I'm going to kill them all, sir." And he does. And it's satisfying. Sometimes the simplest things is what satisfy you. Yes, heavy spoilers right now. He slits some guy's throat. He takes a fucking rocket, shoots someone, they go out the goddamn window and blow up. There's another one where he blows up some machinery and the propeller blade flies off and impales a guy. He's hunting them one by one. He knifes one in the eyeball, a nice gory effect. He hides in the water with this chain gun and comes out. He plants a trap that there's a bomb there. He rappels down with machine guns. He drops grenades into one of these big tank-like vehicles. He's driving it. He pushes a bus. The bus flies up and crushes 2 people. He gets into one-on-one fight with Jason Scott Lee. I like the way that's done, where he can't beat him physically because the other guy's stronger, but he uses his experience. So he makes Jason Scott Lee think he's going to go for that weapon. So when he does it, he takes his propeller blade, almost like, "Made you look, bitch." Cuts his stomach with the damn propeller blade. Then he beats the shit out of him and breaks his fucking arm. Because if he just did that, then killed him, okay. But no, he's like, "I'm going to punch you in the fucking wound, and I'll punch you in the face, and I'll break your fucking arm like a wishbone, and I'll break your fucking neck." It's like, alright. That's what I mean. It does little things like, alright, It doesn't put some stupid love story where Kurt Russell starts falling for Connie Nielsen, or all of a sudden Connie Nielsen decides to cheat on her husband. Just wouldn't make any fucking sense. So, with how many films of this type I watch, I see a lot of where the pitfalls could happen, and it avoids a chunk of them, so that's nice. Again, not too many subplots that are not needed, doesn't try to force some stupid love story, or have some out-of-the-blue sex scene like another film would do, or stuff like that. Even the little bit where, okay, are they going to do the cliche where the kid finally talks? No. They do something else, which I actually thought was kind of sweeter. But yeah, he kicks some ass, he takes some names. And by the end of it, leaves Jason Isaacs there. The dumbass tries to disarm the bomb, doesn't, blows everything to hell. Kurt and the group. And I forgot, Michael Chiklis survives. I'm like, oh, cool, he survives too. And it's the little bits, like the James Black just kind of trying to understand what Caruso and the kid are doing. And the kid does this, and James Black is confused, and Caruso just lifts him up, and there's that look that he gives James Black. And it's almost like Caruso goes, almost like that, but like the slightest hint. And that's what I mean, like that shows how good of an actor Caruso is. That is not an easy thing to do. It looks easy. He makes it look easy. But trust me, there's a shitload of people in the action genre that cannot act for shit. That cannot do that stuff. Kurt could. And it made that work very well. So that's the thing. It kind of like this, like the westerns of yesteryear, which were simple as well. Guy comes into town, kills the bad guys, blah blah blah, leaves the town, saves the day. Sometimes it's the simplest of stories. If they work well enough, can be satisfying and give you a good time at the movies. And that's what this film did. It was great to watch it again. I don't think this will ever get some kind of super edition in the US. I just don't see a studio doing it. Plus, I mean, I would love to get one where Caruso does the commentary. Because he did one for Breakdown, and that was very cool. I have it... Do I have it here or over there? I have the Breakdown Blu-ray. It might be over there, actually. But yeah, that was very cool to have the Kurt doing the commentary for that. But at the same time, I know he only did this for the paycheck. I remember, what was the commentary? One of the commentaries he did with John Carpenter, he even tells a story about, oh, I did this one film for the paycheck, and it was like my lottery ticket, and man, it was hard to get in that shape, and I could never do it again, and so again, I don't know if Kurt will really have anything. If I had to guess, I don't think Kurt will give a shit about this movie, because it was only a paycheck movie. Because I don't think he had any... He did a really great job. I just don't think he had any... I don't want to say passion, because he shows on... It's just... It's not like, oh, I did it for the story, I did it for the character, is I did it for the money. No. That's fine. But it's better than some of the other films he's done. I mean, Art of the Steel. I'll take this over Art of the Steel, I'll say that. Or some of these other films, but Kurt's done a lot of great movies too, so anyway. Would I like to have seen a bit more action early on? Maybe there's some bandits that live nearby and they try to hurt the colony or someone, and or they try to hurt a couple people, and Caruso kicks some ass physically. Whether, you know, some little scuffles here and there, and you see how Caruso can take on these regular jamotes easily, even in his obsolete fashion. Yeah, I would like to have seen some stuff like that. Some of the effects that you see early on of the water shots of the planet, same with the big explosion at the end, is not the best looking effects. The score is there, but I wouldn't say the score was that memorable. See, I didn't even say the word right. Memorable, if I learn how to talk. But see, my mouth was like, don't talk about the score, ain't worth it. But I did anyway. It's not that memorable. It's not like, oh, I'm going to go back and listen to the score of Soldier. And I do think that stuff's important because, you know, the score to Escape from New York, you know, some of the John Carpenter films he did, the scores are fantastic. In part, even the score to Tango and Cash. Was it Harold Faltermeyer who did Beverly Hills Cop? That's a great score. So score and music is important. Even Stargate. Stargate's a great score. Was it David Arnold who did Independent? I think it was. But that's a really good score, Stargate. Here, I wish the store was more, just a better store. I do. I don't remember who did the store. In fact, I should look that up. But I do wish it was done by. Well, actually, let me look it up who it is. So, bear with me. So, I wish the store was better. I think some of the effects could have been improved earlier on. I would like to have seen a little bit more action in the beginning or the first half. But, still a fun, satisfying movie if you like these type of action films. The story is simple but good enough. Kuroso does a great job. The pacing really isn't that bad. And the cast do their jobs very well, especially Kurt. And the third act, you definitely get your satisfaction of action. You get what you pay for. Joel McNeely, who did the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. What else? What else has he done? Parent Trap 3. Splash 2. Terminal Velocity. Oh, it says Air Force One, but additional music only, because that was Jerry Goldsmith who did it. Virus. Who the fuck? Well, yeah, this guy isn't that great of a composer. Virus? Who the fuck remembers the music from Virus? The Fox and the Hound 2? Cinderella 3? I Know Who Killed Me? Isn't that the film with fucking Lindsay Lohan? Yes. No wonder the score sucks, because this guy sucks. And he's doing the new Naked Gun movie. No. Why? He's on here, but someone else is credited to do the score. Okay, then I don't know why the fuck he's on here. I don't know. Anyway. But yeah. You get the guy who did Tinkerbell, direct-to-video film, and I Know Who Killed Me, and Lilo and Stitch 2, and Mulan 2. Wow, they loved him doing those direct-to-video Disney movies. Virus, like... Why the fuck did you get this guy to do the score? If this had like a Jerry Goldsmith, like James Horner... Hell, get John Carpenter to do the score. Fuck it. He'd do that. You want to hire me just for the music? That's what Kurosa would be like. Paul, Mr. Wild's down there. Said, let me handle this. Hey, John, we need a better score for this movie. Yeah. And he does one of his Kurt laughs. Yeah. All right, Ben. Talk to you later. He don't do it. Let him do it. Anyway. With that said, I still quite enjoy the film. It was great to watch this again. And still a very solid movie. Still quite an enjoyable movie. And I definitely one of those films I need to add more to my rotation when watching Kurt Russell films. Because I don't know if this would be my top 5 Kurt Russell, but it would easily be my top 10. Because Kurt Russell, like The Thing, Big Trouble in Little China, Tango and Cash, that right there is 3. And there's so many more, like Breakdown and Steve from New York, and It's like, I have to think about it, Steve from New York's got to be in there. Says, it'd be like, I gotta think about it, but it would definitely be in my top 10 Kurt Russell films. Very, very good film. So, with that said, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.